Wake up with wake. Okay. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We're eventually going to get to the bottom of this. We're eventually going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to go 3 tiers here. Work with these 3 tiers or these 4 realms. We've got the macro crisis. We've got the macro crisis. Then we have the win, and then we have the win, and then we have the gap. The win and the win, there's no issue because they're both wins. They're both wins. The gap is also a win if reframed to use it as a shift point. Something falls into the gap, and we use that as a cue. We use that as a cue to disengage. Gap, disengage. Win, nice. Win, nice. Gap, disengage. But what about the macro crisis? How does that play into all this? How does that play into all this? And how do we not let how do we not let the macro crisis discolor the triple win? Because it's not fair for me to impose the macro crisis on the win. Is it? No. The macro crisis is a mirror of the wound. And if I separate the wound, I mean, here's how we could look at it, right? We could look at it like this: macro crisis. Then we have the win-win. And then there's the gap between the win and the win. And then beneath that gap is the wound. So the wound mirrors the win. I mean, sorry, the wound mirrors the macro crisis. But we've just determined that the gap, which we thought once was a loss, is actually a win. So can we find the win in the macro? Can we find that win in the macro crisis? Can we? I don't know. And there's another question at hand, which is, how do I bring the win-win-win down from a conceptual level down to an emotional level so that I'm not in a self-sabotaging loop? So I want you to sink back into that place of removing all um, removing all hope, removing all expectation, removing all attachment, and removing all prediction. Also look at the worst case scenario too. Not the worst case scenario, but the worst likely case scenario. Just look at that. Now return, if you can, to love, encouragement, appreciation, and patience. Yeah, if you think back to 4 years ago, oh my God. It's quite the superpower. It's quite the superpower. Non attachment and non expectation. Hmm. It's quite the superpower to have. I mean, you could say that it's trauma. It's sad that it took trauma to get there. But to have so little expectation and so little attachment that you can that no matter how much the mountain seems to manifest, no matter how much the mountain seems to manifest, the consciousness is rooted in the valley. The consciousness is saying, Yeah, I see the mountain. It's a beautiful mountain. It's a beautiful mirage. That's the thing. It's a beautiful mirage of a mountain. But I am so rooted in this valley. So that's the tragic maturation. That's the tragic maturation of becoming an adult. Cut the hope, cut the expectation, cut the attachment, cut the prediction. Oof. It's kind of like a don't you dare do that to yourself. So you can talk about the mountain, you can play with the mountain, you can joke about the mountain, you can intend to climb that mountain, you can all sorts of things, but you know that mountain can just vanish. You know the mountain can vanish. Whoosh. And in the past, I mean, here's the growth, right? In the past, you would be a ball in a pinball machine, just bouncing all around. You'd be a ball in the pinball machine, just bouncing all around, and then falling into the pit. You were the ball bouncing around, falling into the pit. And now there's enough conscious observation, there's enough witness, so that you are no longer the ball. The ball is bouncing around inside the pinball machine, and you are watching it, and you are saying, you know what? That ball, it's either going to keep doing cool stuff and ending up in interesting spots, or it's going to fall into the pit. But I'm not that. I'm not identifying as that. But where does this take us all? Where does this take us within the framework of the win, 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 the win, 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 the macro crisis, and the wound? How does this all relate? How does this all relate, and the how can the system itself have more peace to it? So if the macro crisis mirrors the wound, if the macro crisis is an outgrowth of the wound, if the macro crisis is the wound playing itself out in real time, I think that what's going on is it's, if you look at it kind of like the wound is acting like a projector and the macrocrisis is acting as a screen. So we've got this wound, and it's playing out on the screen. I have to believe that if somehow if we healed the wound, would we heal the macrocrisis? And how does a wound that deep, how does one heal a wound that deep? How does one heal a wound that deep? Is it through therapy? Is it through experiences? Is it through journaling? Is it through is the and is that even true? Is it even true? What would that look like? What would that look like if we snapped our fingers and the wound was just healed? We're going to come back to that because there's a point I want to touch on, which is that there's a missing piece I want to touch on, which is in the win-wins category. So you have the win that was previously identified as a loss. But I'm wondering if that needs to be I wonder if we need to switch the wins in order. And instead of saying that which once was the loss is now the win, and that which is the win is still the win. I feel like we need to wholeheartedly choose these need better names. I'm going to call it the Neo win. We need to choose the Neo win. Rather than being kind of like, yeah, I'm open to the Neo win. Yeah, that's the phrase. I'm open to the Neo win. Let's say this is old paradigm. I'm open to the Neo win. But I'm hoping for the win. What about changing it to something like I accept the Neo win. I accept the Neo win and I let go of the win. Just let it go. Discard it. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Not only let it go, I mean, I go so far as to say, push it away. Get rid of it. It's kind of, if you don't do that, it's kind of like you are. It's kind of like you're doing well at the no expectation, no attachment, no prediction. Yeah, it's like you're doing well at the no attachment and the no expectation, but you are still like letting but you're still letting hope and prediction enter in. So get rid of all those. Let them go. Push them away. You don't need them. Just let it go. Let it go. Another way to think of it is when something is thrown into the gap, double it back. Choose the neo win. Decide on the neo win. Embrace the neo win. Okay. But what do we do with the macro wound? What do we do with the macro, the wound and the wound and the macro crisis? I mean, I think the macro crisis is you know, language is powerful, right? Language is powerful. I think it's better if we use it, if we refer to it as a puzzle. A puzzle that we want to solve. The puzzle that we want to solve. Okay, but even if we reframe it, how do I solve it?